here. Ooh. This is my part right here. Ooh. Sing.
And if you have something, so Chantel and I have been watching what is it? Whose version of that song? The Golden Girls?
I forget his name.
You guys need to just look up Golden Girls remix on Instagram, YouTube, wherever, and you will not be able to listen to that song again. So, hey, it's Julie.
It's Chantel. Sorry, we've been going for so long.
We are Viera Vida. Welcome. Today we have a special guest with us, Justin Sinks, I call him, but his name is Justin Rodriguez. The founder and co-host of the Past the Vibes podcast is here to share his vibes with us this morning. Welcome.
Thank you. And please do not call me Justin Sinks again.
Anymore. So I called him Justin Sinks because he passionately could sell any sink to you.
I don't sell, oh my God.
Any sink in your life, he will sell that John to you. You don't even need a sink, he will sell you two. No, but Justin's cool peoples, and I've known him for years now, so we're really excited to do this collaboration. We have, I recently got the opportunity to be on Justin's podcast, and we both had a lot of fun and had a lot of really great conversation.
Yeah.
So welcome. Chantel, this is the first time that you're meeting Justin.
Yep.
And it's online. It was going to be in person, but you know, COVID, things happen. We do what we do.
Be ready. Yep.
So Justin, you may or may not know, the way that Chantel and I start our show is with a very special segment called Our Roses. And the reason why we give roses to people is a way to express gratitude, because a lot of people don't give people flowers until they're gone. So we shout out somebody and express gratitude for something great going on in the world, in our lives, or with somebody that we know. So Shan _ do you mind kicking it off?
Sure. Yeah. So, hello everybody. How you doing? Look at my extended delay. You have one already, Julie?
No, friend. That's why I asked you to go first.
Let me think. So,
okay, I got one.
Okay, go.
Okay, so we know that we're gonna do this every week, but we do struggle sometimes to do this.
For a whole month.
But I am very prepared actually now, all of a sudden. I want to shout out communities, and I'm saying that ambiguously because for you it might look different in this time, but for me, I during COVID tried to stay, in my apartment or within my apartment community. We're trying to be safe, and was able to develop some friendships with neighbors, and it just really has been able to get us through this process. And through, for example, going to visit my mom next weekend, we've got neighbors that will come and check on the cats. And last night we had a nice wine night, and that community has provided a lot of comfort in this time. And also it makes home feel a little bit more like home. So whatever community you have, shout outs to them. Shout outs to my neighbors here at AP. Yeah, you know me. And just appreciate the people around you.
Oh, that was so good.
Don't start with me, friend. She gets all emotional.
I want to piggyback off of Julie's community, because that actually did make me think of what I'm currently involved in. I want to shout out all the staff and the team at the Lighthouse on West Lehigh, 152 West Lehigh and 141 West Somerset here in Philadelphia. We are a Head Start Center. We're trying to figure out what this looks like for parents who need childcare. And everybody's been working so hard. Matter of fact, some of our maintenance guys are working today over the weekend, trying to get everything ready. It's just been a scramble, and it's been crazy with the pandemic, but everyone's really pushing. So that again speaks to Julie shouting out the community. So I just wanted to shout out that small community there of the employees and everybody. Our cooks have volunteered their time, not wanting to get paid, to drop the food off to the children of parents who can't come to get it. So I just want to thank everybody for just being selfless in this time and just working together and just trying to make this work for, our families who really, really need, we have mothers and fathers who have to go to work, and it's hard if they don't know what to do with their children. This is such a tough scenario and tough situation But shout out to everybody at the Lighthouse.
Amen. That is nice. I didn't realize, how much was going on over there, because the lighthouse is just like historical, right? Like if you know the lighthouse, they have a lot of history, and like thinking about how they have adapted through times is really
Yeah.
interesting.
It's the oldest nonprofit community still around in Philadelphia, and it was founded in 1893, and it's still here. So yeah.
Amen. Wow. 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 Well, now you have to follow that up, Justin. And I don't know
I
how that's going to go for you.
I don't know why my camera just turned off, but all right.
Try to skip your shout out.
Wait a minute.
It's like your shout out was so good. My camera was like, nah, you can't follow that up. Yeah, that is really tough to follow up, because like trying to just stir up something in my mind to shout out. Like my mind is always revolving around music, because music is such a daily part of my it's just my daily routine. It's like I can't wake up, I can't walk around the house, I can't just even go into like my bathroom without having music playing in some shape or form, like through my phone or through my speakers or on the computer. So I mean, I know you guys are shouting out community, but like I guess I don't know. It's just my mind is always working around music.
Whatever,
So,
whatever your shout out is.
so I guess just shout out to whatever music that you listen to on a daily basis that gets you through a tough time. Because I know that that's what I always like to do. Like I have multiple playlists that are always revolving around certain moods, certain time of days, and it's just like it always puts me in a certain mode to just keep my day going, because I'll always find myself like stopping or finding myself like running into like a roadblock and trying to get something done, and just like putting on a certain song will just like push me through that little barrier that'll just get that stuff done. So I guess you just shout out to the daily music that gets you through your day to day. So I guess that for me, and sticking with the passive vibes thing that I have going on for what I'm doing. But yeah.
I love that. And we're going to talk more about passive vibes in a moment, but
okay.
I love that about the music and just how it helps you through the day. Sometimes Chantel and I do this really fun episode where we just share all the music that's getting us through at a certain time. We're gonna have to invite you back for one of those episodes.
Yeah.
Oh no, yeah.
It'd be really dope.
And that's pretty good too, because quickly, without taking over the show and the plans I know Julie already has today, she'd be thinking about really good themes. I right now at work, just because everything just can feel all over the place, because we're trying to figure stuff out and we're learning new things. Being at the Lighthouse, I'm listening to a lot of jazz right now.
Okay.
And somebody came into my office one day and they're like, "This is really calming." And I said, "I know. That's all I'm listening to right now." And I don't mind smooth jazz, but I'm more of like Miles Davis, Coltrane. I like that jazz, like bebop and stuff like that. But yeah, so I completely understand what you're saying about music.
Yeah.
She's like, I like Miles Davis, Coltrane, that jazz. Like that is the jazz. Like,
and I don't want to like do anything else, because like Tabby, like Kenny G, and I'm probably gonna say his name wrong, but Tabby Bonet, like they're cool and I can listen to them, but I like more of like the historical. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I actually took this one college course, Jazz Century, and I remember this being such an interesting course because we ended up both learning about the etymology of jazz within America and also the music and dance aspect. So we had a practicum portion in which we would dance, but we also had a lecture version where we would learn about jazz. And so I have this really cool book that you might be interested in, Chantel, but it talks about all of these people and just like the roots of jazz, which are really deep and actually really important to talk about in this time, especially with the political climate, with social climate, and the amount of racism we're facing. Super interesting. So that would be, if I had to shout out a book today, the Jazz Century in America. Really great book. Speaking of books, we are going to discuss a book later in the episode, but I do want to go ahead and give some time for our guests to share what is it that you're doing. Tell us a little bit about yourself first, and then we'll get into your podcast.
Okay, so I guess a little bit about me. So, like you said, my name is Justin Rodriguez, and people say I have a radio voice. No, I'm kidding. No, it's a little bit about me. So I'm, as I'm like thinking about like, oh, as you know me. No, so as people know me, I'm kind of a goofball. I'm very, I guess I'm very just laid back. I kind of just go with the flow of things. Um, yeah, I love to make people laugh. Like I said, I'm a goofball. I love to make people laugh. Like I'm always trying to find the humor in life, especially during these times. It's so much going on a weekly basis that I just have to try to pinpoint something that'll like either brighten up my mood or I'll try to find something to brighten someone else's mood. And I'm just trying to keep that laughter going. But in regards to what I've been doing lately, so during this whole quarantine, I needed something to keep my creativity going because like not really, doing as much with work. So, because I'm just at home. So, I've always had a plan in my mind for like at least 2 years to start like a podcast and a YouTube channel for video gaming. And gaming is like in my roots. So, I guess that's another big thing about me personally. I'm a huge nerd. If I was to turn the camera, like I don't know, a little bit of an angle, you would see like just shelves of video games, old school consoles. You
It
saw
was
them.
so impressive.
Yeah, it's not, it's sad. Um,
I was into it. I thought it was cool.
but I'm a huge nerd, so it's like that's where the video game channel idea came from. And then with my co-host, Anthony, but he goes by Zero on the podcast. Um, we worked at Toys R Us together, and it was always very easy to talk to him about just like whatever. And we're both heavy into music, primarily like hip hop, but like my taste in music just spans all spectrums. And I was just like, I need to just do this. I had the two microphones like bought last winter. Um, I had the recording device bought again last winter, and I just never just got it off and running. And then the world shuts down, and I'm like, okay, I need something to keep me occupied, keep me my creative juices going. And so I was like, screw it, let's just do it. And I tested it out a little bit by myself, and then once he was like comfortable to come through, this was probably like a month and a half into like quarantine, so this is like April. We started just banging out episodes, and we had like maybe like 4 or 5 episodes within like 2 weeks.
Yeah, they don't
And
play games.
well, yeah, and then we were like, well, we need to slow it down because like stuff that we talk about might get like outdated. And then so like that's where like this whole process began, because I had no idea about how to run a podcast or a YouTube channel.
You
So
would
it's like,
never know.
are you kidding? Take a look at some of those early YouTube videos, you'll understand. Um, yeah, so we started just doing a whole bunch of episodes, and then like the whole creative process of the podcast and YouTube channel started to develop, and that's what I began to fall in love with, like the growing aspect of it. Because like now I'm learning like, okay, maybe we should just do like a couple episodes and like shorten the times, because like we were letting it run for some episodes like 2 hours. I think our longest episode was 3 hours, and my friend was like, who are you, Joe Rogan? I was like, no, I'm definitely not Joe Rogan. I don't have Joe Rogan money. But yeah, and back in, yeah, just growing with the channel, growing with the podcast, I just fell in love with it, and then just figuring out how to like just put new flavors and new spices on it. Like I've just been continuing to like just find my creativity with like these little tweaks with that. So I mean, that's how the whole podcast and YouTube channel started, and then that's what I've just been primarily no well then work primarily focusing on throughout this whole lockdown, and just like contributing just new things that like this camera I just recently bought because I wanted to start like not becoming a photographer by any means, but just taking cool pictures, because I've always been into like just taking like cool scenic shots and stuff like that. And I learned how to, I've been learning how to edit video, I've been learning how to edit audio.
Yeah.
And back to that whole growing thing, yeah, it's just I just love the whole process that I've just been finding new things to do.
I'm really impressed by you because, during a tough time, I remember you mentioned on your show. So this is why I feel comfortable bringing it up, but like the importance of understanding your mental health and
Yes.
why the show for you was an outlet, and
Yeah.
it helped you to really connect in the world and things like that. I really appreciated that, and it's hard to find especially minorities that are open to talk about those things,
Mhm.
at least in my experience, and especially men. So I just really valued that. It was really cool. Shani
Yeah.
Shan Shan also has a passion for music,
Okay.
and I feel like you guys would connect really well during that realm. So I do have a couple questions, and the first question, actually, it can be for you, Chantel. Okay, so when Justin describes his process, and we're thinking more about creative process before we even get into ideologies behind entrepreneurship, which is what the next section will be about. But when he talks about his creative process, how much do you relate to that? Because I feel like the creative process is so different for every single person, and you both bake, you sing, you are a very creative person, so I just was interested in hearing your perspective. Oh yeah, she sings. Yeah, I saw your face. Yeah, she sings.
Well, Julie, thank you for that. Those kind words. No, so it's funny to me because if I had to talk about myself and creative processes, I would sit there and say, I don't have creative processes. What are you talking about? Like, and it's, I feel like sometimes my thinking can be all over the place. Like if you're in my mind, I'm like thinking so far ahead. Like if you mentioned the baking, like if I'm just starting today, what am I going to bake? Oh my gosh, how are we going to freeze these things and sell and like ship them, right? So sometimes I think so far ahead and I have to pull myself back to like, okay, let's get this all organized and together. And I've also learned that my creative processes also work best when I have somebody else to bounce it off of. Like,
Mm-hmm.
yes, there's a lot of things going on in my mind, but I'll call Julie, I'll call my sister. Sometimes I talk to my mom. I've even told my boss at work because he'll ask me what I think about something. Can you brainstorm something? And I told him I can, and I will start. But I find that it's best if I'm in the room with somebody or I'm talking to somebody. And once they start thinking, it makes my mind start thinking about other possibilities as well. So I find myself to work best in teamwork, even if it's something just for me, my project. I still call you, I'll still call my sister and like, hey, and then you both give me ideas, and that's just what works best for me.
And that's so different. I love that, and you're totally right. It's really cool how deeply you know yourself, because I've seen that in you in the last 10 years or whatever. But Justin, your creative process was very personal and also limited in terms of like who you reach out to, right? Like you're home, you're by yourself, you're like, I'm gonna do this. I got the whole room set up, I got
Yeah.
all of the materials that I'm gonna need, and you just did it. That's different for me. And that's different for Chantel. Like, how do you stay that motivated?
Oh, I sometimes surprise myself with how I'm still able to, like, since April, keep up with like doing this on a, on a weekly basis, and just trying to keep myself at like not overexhaust myself, because I almost felt that at one point, especially with the gaming videos. I was posting them every single day, and so how we would record for like, I don't know, like 3 hours like of just video games. And I mean, I'm just definitely pounding in on how big of a nerd I am, like just playing video games for that long. So yeah, we would record the podcast for like an hour and a half, then jump right into the video games for like a few hours, and then I would chop those videos up and then post them 5 days a week. And I had to like, and then this is where like I just had to, light a fire under myself to just be like, YouTube has a feature where you can just pre-upload stuff and then schedule it, and I just needed to just keep being consistent with that. But then even doing that, like just the whole, and then this is where I was learning about like video editing. So I had to learn about like exporting the video and then uploading it to YouTube, and then that's like
Process.
that's like an hour, and that's another hour, so that's like 2 hours, like one video. And so I was
Oh,
just
you
like,
don't let it fail after the whole hour of trying to upload it.
Right. Or your internet goes off, or
and that's
right.
happened. You were here while that happened at one point.
Right. One time we're recording a podcast and all the power went out. It was a big storm.
Luckily, just my laptop had enough juice to just finish that episode. But yeah, just I had to figure out how to keep had to stay on top of that consistency. And I don't know. It's I guess it kind of just it kind of connects with like I don't want to feel the way that I felt prior to figuring out who I was, because like we talked about it on our podcast a little bit, like I would say 2 years ago around this time I felt lost as all hell. And up until I got, I ran into, not ran into, got the therapist that I have now, and then started like going consistently, and then biweekly, then monthly, and then because like I felt like I was starting to like just finally just settle into the person and figure out like why I think the way that I do. I keep doing the podcast, I keep doing the YouTube channel, because like I feel like this is like where I am, like mentally, creatively, and I finally like connected the two. And so I feel like if I don't do that, I'll just start to kind of like regress into like this, kind of the like that shell of a human like before it, where I feel like empty and I'm like not fulfilled. And that's what I just want to keep that feeling of being fulfilled, because that's what I was missing
Right.
for who knows how long, a part of like my adult life, up until like I got the help, and then took the steps that I needed to get to where I am today. So I mean that's why like it's just like that fire where it's just like you don't want to go back, you don't want to you don't want to lose that progress. So it's just like I keep the podcast and talking to people, I keep the gaming to be entertained and entertain other people, to just keep that level headed, and just at the end of the day have fun with it too. So I mean
Aw.
it is hard to find fun to do nowadays. So
It is. And you're kind of in my head because I was going to ask you a question. Like, what does this do for you? What does it mean for you
mm,
to do the podcast? And you started like talking on that a bit.
yeah.
You know, I was going to ask that question. I know you don't, but
I
that's
love that.
literally what I was going to ask, especially during this time, being a Black man, you identify as, right?
mm.
Um, like, what does this mean for you doing this podcast? And
I would I would say that like, well, doing a podcast initially, it was just kind of just some type of human interaction. Like that's what it was initially about, and then the whole creative side as well. But then as I started to like kind of get a little bit more serious about it, I felt that like no matter how big, how big of a person you are, like like celebrity status wise or like media wise, everyone has a voice at the end of the day. And then I really recognized that, um, you know, May, June, when all of, when kind of just everything imploded. And I kind of made like a dedicating opening portion to one of my podcast episodes to, dedicating it to, the recent, like, even though there's been more than enough, the recent death of George Floyd, because it just happened, and then I was just posting my video, so I was like, I can't post it. I wouldn't have felt right posting that episode without saying something, because we did
Yeah.
touch upon it in the episode like a little bit, because like we kind of say, we've said it on our podcast before, we don't get heavy into really like heated topics, because it's all about like having like very stream of consciousness, music, stories, stupid stories and stuff like that.
Vibes.
Yeah, vibes. And but that episode particularly, like I made like a little 2 minute intro, just talking about it and talking about like who I am. And I realized, to my point, that like, even though like, yeah, I have like, I don't know, 20 listeners or something like that, it doesn't matter. It's just like people need to recognize like you have a voice, and just saying something and getting it out there, no matter who hears it. That's all that matters. I mean, just
Yeah.
like, just one voice at a time is going to make a change eventually. So that's what I felt like I needed to do that in that episode.
That's wonderful. And it sounds like a real exercise in self-care, but also
Yes.
in selflessness at the same time, which is what I find is so powerful about art in general and any form of communication, is that you are helping and giving at the same time as you are fulfilling yourself. And that's really powerful, and actually the perfect segue for what we're going to talk to in the second segment. I will say that we're just going to take a small break, and in this time I want to give a shout out to our sponsors and a shout out to our new engineer Olivia, who is handling this amazing episode with grace and poise. So excited to have her here at Usula Media. Also, if you're interested in being able to sponsor, we do have opportunities, so reach out to us at contact@vieravida.com, and we will be right back after this short break.
There's a lot of fear in coming back to school. I wasn't sure if I could do it. I'm a 40-year-old man that walked in there to get his high school diploma. It was very hard for me, but the teachers, the counselors, they help you. One of the teachers was Miss Araceli. Miss Araceli, she gave me direction. Every single time I had a question, she'll put down whatever she's doing and she'll come over and she'll sit there with you until you get it.
Thank you, Miss Araceli. I know you make a difference in people's lives because of the person and teacher you are. I wanted to be here because I wanted to thank you for helping me get a beautiful gift.
It's the
50% of getting your high school diploma is walking through those doors. The other 50% is doing the work. Getting your high school diploma, it is a life-changing experience. It really is.
Live stream.
I know we're on a little basic like Mac built-in.
I will switch.
Oh, that's
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
Yeah, no.
Hey besties, welcome back to the Viera Vida show. We have with us Justin Rodriguez, and we're so excited as we are talking about the Past the Vibes podcast. If you're just tuning in, you might not know about the vibes that we have created already in this episode, where we are celebrating art and giving. And so earlier in the episode, we talked about the etymology of the Past the Vibes podcast. And now we're getting into this theme, and this theme is of both self-care and giving. And that brought to mind a book that I had recently read, and it's called The Go-Giver. So I wanted to talk with our little team here about the concepts within this book, as we're all in some form of entrepreneurship, yet some sort of giving and some sort of art, and talk about what that can mean in how we approach our lives and our art. So the concept of this book is basically, just like it sounds, The Go-Giver, is that the more you give to the world, the more you get back out of the world. And in order to be successful, specifically in this book as an entrepreneur, it talks about giving. So before I even give the 5 tips, I just want to hear what you guys have to say about that, and if you have any thoughts. And real quick pause. Justin, you have a shout out on YouTube. Shout out to Justin from Nehemiah, Chantel's son.
He said hi, Justin.
Probably to have
really?
Another guy on the show.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
5, and he's with my parents. So my dad come in and said, Niam said hi, Justin.
Oh, thank you. I tell him I said hi or hello.
Oh, look, Nemo, you got a shout out, papito. So how do you guys feel about that concept? The more you give to the world, the more you get out of it, and then we can go a little bit deeper into this conversation. Chantel, you want to kick us off?
So, with knowing, I guess, my belief systems and being a Bible believer, I feel like it's also a biblical principle: what you reap is what you sow, whether that be good or bad. So yeah, those are my quick thoughts on that piece.
How about you, Justin?
Yeah, I highly believe in that. I kind of just connect that with just karma in general.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the more good that you do, it's just like you feel like the more good you'll most likely receive if you believe in that.
Yeah. And so here's the thing. We think about that, right? We think about that in our lives and the way that we approach community, friendships, and relationships. But what I thought was really cool about this book is that he shows, and he being the author, which is it a he? Bob Berg, yes, shows that these concepts of giving are also really important to success in terms of entrepreneurship, in terms of business, in terms of like financial success, you know, like that basic like American dream, right? And so he comes up with 5 laws of stratospheric success, and they all have to do with giving back. And he shows examples of how when you apply these laws, you will be more successful than if you would not apply these laws, and you will also be creating more community. So I figured we could talk about each of these 5 laws and just sort of how we can apply that within our lives, but also just kind of see if we're doing this. If not, we can be conscious of it, right? So the first law of stratospheric success is your true worth is determined by how much more you give in value than you take in payment. I'll say that again. Your true worth is determined by how much more you give in value than you take in payment. Okay, as an entrepreneur, this was tough for me at first to understand. You know, like sometimes you're, you know, like for example, I had some honey pots that I make in my shop break in the mail. I really think this mailman must have been kicking, punting, throwing. It was crazy because I packaged them thoroughly, but you know, whatever. And my customer obviously received a box of broken pots. And so in, you know, in my mind right away, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I'm going to send you some new ones, blah, blah, blah. Well, then they get lost in the mail. So, so I'm sending new pots and I'm giving a refund. So every time I'm like, what can I do to give you more? So then you think about it, and instead of making profit there, the box itself costs $20 to ship each time. Then you think about the products, then you think about the time you're losing, right? In our normal business mind, we're thinking that's a loss. But when I read this book, my mindset changed. My mindset said, my true worth is determined by how much more I give in value than I take in payment. And I said to myself, you know what? This person is seeing good customer service. This person seeing that I'm determined to make sure they have whatever they need. This person ended up giving me a 5-star review. So that was like the perfect, I guess, concrete example for me. How do you guys feel about that? Your worth being determined by how much more you give than you take?
I feel like people are going to remember that. Like she remembered it with review. If I'm saying she, like I know that that's what the person was, sorry, but if this person feels that, you know, oh, let me check out, you know, Julie's shop or Viera Vida shop to see what else they have, or let me recommend them because there was a really tough time that we had trying to get these, you know, my order, and she made it right. Like more than made it right. Like you kept trying to make sure it was fixed. And I think that's what people remember. And I feel like it's funny that you're talking about honey pots, because I'm probably going to butcher the saying, but you get more bees with honey, right? Is that what it is?
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Right?
That sounds about right.
That's the thing.
I just won't say it's right anyway. So sometimes I feel like it's hard to be positive when things like your day could be going bad or wrong, but that moment when you remain positive and you smile anyway, you're helping someone else. So you could be helping someone else, and that makes their day better. And then it's just this like trickling effect of like, and they make somebody else's day better. And I think that's really important. It'll keep the person remembering what you did for them. They might come back. And at the end of the day, even if nobody says thank you, it should make you feel good about yourself. Even if you don't hear a thank you, it's like knowing that you are going above and beyond. And that's why I am big on customer service, no matter what I'm doing.
Yeah, it's so true. I love that connection that you made. I mean, need I say more? So we can move on to the second law. The second law of stratospheric success, according to the Bob Berg book, is the law of compensation. So the first was the law of value, but this one's the law of compensation. So it says that your income is determined by how many people you serve and how well you serve them. So, you know, like some people think, oh, my income is, you know, like I gotta sell something expensive. I gotta have, you know, like multiple streams of income. But what does that really come down to? It comes down to how many people you serve, not that you get to buy from you, not that gives you money, not that how many people you serve and how well you serve them. I love that. How are you feeling about that? Do you feel like that's true? Justin?
Because I'm thinking about that on like a level deeper, because compensation doesn't necessarily have to be a monetary value, you know, because it's, you know, the more people you serve, like, yeah, you think like, oh, if I sell more to, you know, if I sell a lot to a lot of people, I'll make a lot of money. But like, if you're, let's say if you're a nonprofit, like you're not making any money. And the compensation is just like knowing that like you gave a service to help someone else's life and help progress their life. And yeah, I 100% agree with that. Yeah, it's like the compensation doesn't, yeah, that's definitely how I take it. Compensation doesn't always have to be monetary value. So
I love that you took that deeper. And I feel like that's what this book did for me too. Like you could take everything deeper. And I like this ideology of servitude. And Chantel, you're really strong in your faith. And we're not scared to talk about faith on this podcast and this show. Chantel, how do you feel about that aspect? The part about how many people you serve, and like specifically saying serve instead of like how many people you get to buy from you, or how many people, like, you know, like how many things you sell.
Well, since you want to bring up like our faith and stuff, so the Messiah said he came to serve, right? And if in believing in the Bible, believing in the Father, believing in his Son came to die for us, because again, Julie and I talk about this all the time. This is what we believe. If the person that we're looking up to, who came to be our example, said he came to serve and he was like the highest and the greatest, that's what we're supposed to be doing as well. It shows the selflessness. And it just shows that, you know what, you're willing to give of yourself for the good and the better of the people and those with you. And I think that's the most beautiful thing. If you can step outside of yourself and say, you know what, I'm gonna work hard because I'm gonna help my brother. I'm gonna help my sister. Like, I'm gonna make sure everybody's good. And something Julie always says is if she eats, everybody around her eats. So it's just like making sure that your community, whoever you consider your community, whether it be your friends or your literal community outside, if everybody's good, you're good. That's like one of the best feelings.
Yeah, I'm with that 100%. And you like literally took the thought right out of my mind. Like, I want that, you know, like if I'm eating, everyone's eating, even if we're having a little more, so we are eating together. And I love that, you know, like, and that's really how I run my life. This book, what it did for me though, it was like, you do that, that's going to get you places where some people will say, oh, what a waste, or, you know, you're being, you know, you're not being smart or whatever. No, do what you do. I really do think that we're called to serve.
Can I say something before we move on to the next one? How many more do we have? Sorry, 2.
We have 3 more. Mm-hmm.
3 more. Okay. So this also makes me think politically, like when you vote, not everybody thinks this way, but you know, not every candidate, every candidate is not going to be the best for everybody, but it's like you want to try to see who's the best for the majority, like who is actually going to actually put in the work for the most people. Because again, one size doesn't fit all, right? And when I vote, I'm thinking of, okay, how's this going to help everybody? And I heard it said best by somebody that I follow. I listened to her on Sirius XM, and she had made a comment that when she voted, no, she didn't vote for sure. Trump works for her pockets because of the tax bracket she's in, because of the businesses that she has, but it doesn't work for the community for her. Like, so in her voting, she's trying to vote or go for the candidate that is going to help everyone, even if that means she has to take a little tax hit, a financial hit. She knows she's going to be good. So she's like not trying to think of just herself, but everybody around her.
Selflessness. And that's what we need more of. I love that. I love that connection that you made, Chantel. And Justin, sorry, didn't warn you. We are not afraid to talk about anything. So politics, religion, you see that happened all within 2 minutes.
Listen, it's not that I'm not afraid to talk about. Like, I do have my own like opinions about everything. Like, do not get me wrong. It's just that's just the nature of that podcast. So, yeah, I don't have a problem talking about it. Don't think I'm like oh no.
No, I know Justin's not afraid to talk about things. Just in general, it's a social norm that we're trying to break. Yeah. Justin is actually also a mutual friend of Josh and I, and Josh has been on the show several times. So you guys know how that dynamic probably goes. It's great. And really open. I love that. Okay, so the next law of, you know, stratospheric success is the law of influence, and this law, according to Bob Burg, says your influence is determined by how abundantly you place other people's interests first. Other people's interests first. Your influence, your personal influence, which is, you know, how important to the stratospheric success. We put it right in the middle, and I feel like this is important. This is like the bread sorry, this is like the meat inside of that sandwich, you know, and I think it's important. Your influence is, you know, how much people, in my opinion, trust you, you know, by how when you're placing other people's interests first, that's cool and all, but they're not going to let you influence them. They're not going to trust you. They're not going to let you into their lives, you know, to be able to be a part of whatever circle or network they have if you don't have that trust. And I feel like that's what this law is about.
So it's kind of like you're catering to like their needs first. I'm just trying to like.
Yeah, it was okay. This kind of blew my mind.
Yeah.
So their needs first is like backwards in a lot of like entrepreneur books that I read, because you know, like I'm reading just, you know, trying to grow or whatever.
Yeah.
And putting other people's interests first is, it sounds like this in his book. It sounds like okay, I, for example, let's say that I sell sweaters, right? And I'm like, okay, well, I see that this school in North Philly has a bunch of kids who generally can't afford, you know, this level of payment for a sweater, but they need sweaters. It's more people that need sweaters. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna lower the cost for this. I'm gonna make sure that I do everything that I gotta do to suit their need. And so when they come, they're going to get these sweaters, but it's because I thought about what you really need, what you can afford. And that's when you have more people to support.
Got it.
Because they're able to.
So it's like you have a service already and you're trying to, and then you look for like a need or like to apply it to.
Yeah. And sometimes you don't. Sometimes you don't have a service. Sometimes it looks like, you know what? I see, Chantel, that you need help moving, right? And then so you go out, and remember, this is a law of influence specifically. You go out and it's like, Chantel, I'm gonna go help you move, no problem. Well, what happens on that day is Chantel, and this is just an example, has a couple other friends that came to help her move that we never met before. And me just being willing to give, you know, like the world came back and was like, oh, look, now you're connected to her sister who's like really beautiful. And now, you know, you guys are forming trust, and later in life you help each other. So it's just like, you think about others and others will think about you.
Okay.
And I like that. I thought it was really interesting. He explains it clearly better than me. So the fourth law is the law of authenticity. The most valuable gift you have to offer is yourself.
So Julie, I want to ask you a question because you keep asking us, of course. So if someone's watching or they're listening or saying, well, how do I give myself while still protecting myself?
I love that. I love that.
Types of people.
So that I think is why this law was called the law of authenticity. And obviously all this is up into interpretation, right? You know, that's why we're having so much fun having this conversation. You have to be authentic in sharing that. You know, I have a certain need, I have a certain stipulation, I have a certain fear. If you're not authentic and you're like, oh, I don't know, for example, I'm not afraid of heights, whatever, let's go skydiving, whatever, I'm not scared. That's not your authentic self, right? So when you're giving that person your time, which we say is, you know, our most valuable asset, you're not given who you really are. So you could be in a mood, you could be like afraid the whole time. You're not even like, how is that valuable? How is that time together fruitful? Because you're not being your authentic self. So to answer your question, I think it's the more authentic you are, the more comfortable you are in sharing what you are comfortable with and also what you're not comfortable with. And that authenticity is pervasive in all parts of your life. So even through the dialogue, and when they see your authenticity, the people who are going to stick around are the people who are comfortable with you protecting yourself, are comfortable with respecting your boundaries, because part of being authentic is sharing those boundaries, being open about it, and not wavering because this person has more influence than this person. And so, you know, I'll do it just because I have to this time, because I impress this person. No, your authentic self all the time. That's a gift.
It is.
That's how I feel about that.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree with that. Yeah. I feel like I wouldn't even do my podcast if I wasn't being authentic with it or anything like that. I would feel like I'd be doing a disservice to whoever I'm talking to and a disservice to myself. And yeah, and then yeah, I can't even picture like me being like putting on a front because I'm so open about everything, and I'm just thinking about like lying about something like
Yeah.
just that's completely
Yeah.
like just talking about something that's completely false, and then just like then actually posting it. And I can't imagine like how I feel like it actually being on the internet forever. Like
People
it's
do
just
it.
insane.
People do post their fake and they get all these followers, but then after
Oh
all
yeah,
found out, like eventually all that's going to like
it
surprise
catches up. Yeah,
post.
Yeah.
it
Remember
catches
that
up to
one
you
thing
real
that you
quick.
said? It don't add up with what we're finding out now. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, one thing that I'm also learning about this is that it's not necessarily um, when you're lying about something always, like it could be like that fraudulent character, but also when it comes to like my biggest issue, I think in learning what my authenticity is, um, and puts me in a vulnerable position is that I have a hard time saying no. So when people, like ask me for my time or ask me for something and they're like, "Hey, can you this?" My answer really should be, like that might not work for me because this, and right away it's yes. So that's not my authentic self. I'm throwing like like sometimes my health aside, or sometimes like a party, or sometimes like even just I need time to chill. Like I'm throwing that aside to please somebody else. That's not a gift to them then, because that's not my full self who's arriving. So I need to learn to sometimes say no. I need to learn it's okay. I need to learn how. I've been working on it, but I think that's where sometimes without noticing, because obviously, we don't believe in lies and things like that, but without noticing, we are not sharing our full authentic self. So that would just be an example. So the final one, the final law of stratospheric success is the law of receptivity. And that says that the key to effective giving is to stay open to receiving. And this one's hard. The key to effective giving is to stay open to receiving. Okay, so the way he talked about this in a book, just because like for me, it was like, what? Um, was there was a woman, and the woman he had worked with for a while, and she offered him an opportunity to be a partner in a business. Um, and in that, he was able to switch from the job that he wasn't really a fan of, go to serve for her. But in that, so he was open to that opportunity, open to receiving that from her. And so he was able to give her what he considered to be his purpose, in doing the marketing or sales or whatever it was that he was doing there. But had he not been open to receiving a new position because he was comfortable in where he was at, then he wouldn't have been able to give and grow all these businesses like they did because he was still stuck. So it says, again, the key to effective giving is to stay open to receiving. How do you guys feel about that?
Even from a personal standpoint, not even business wise, there's been many times. So if someone tries to give me something, like, no, 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 I can't take it. No, 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 thank you, no, thank you, no, thank you. And then I've heard it said, which you probably heard it said before too, don't block my blessing, like from the person who's trying to give it. Like, I genuinely want to give this to you. Don't block what might be coming back from me for giving this to you. So I had to learn how to say thank you and accept it, and just like, okay,
Yeah.
there my teeth to smile. So yeah, it's because that might help you out, and you might not realize what that person's trying to give you, how that's going to help you down the road, even if you don't see it at that moment.
Yeah. I have a question. So why do you think, because I have that same issue, and we have this don't knock my blessings conversation all the time. Why do you think that we sometimes, especially as women, and I could be wrong, this could be a generalization, it's just my experience. So Justin, you can chime in. Why do we have such a problem with receiving and like getting, like, is it a feeling of unworthiness? Is it like, what is that?
Well, I guess to chime in and to piggyback off of Chantel, it's like also like a personal thing to me too. Like I felt like I've always grown up not asking for a lot. And whenever someone did like reach, oh hey, I'm like, no, it's cool. Like I got it. Like I feel like I have that mentality just as a child and an adult. And and then to what your question, what you're asking is you it's definitely Well, I feel like it's definitely like worthiness and like and then just our generation of just always trying to be independent of ourselves. Yeah, I definitely has to I definitely think it has to do with like we're so focused on just like being independent and doing everything on our own. It's very hard to accept like people helping us get to another level. And so we always have to just like, nah, I can do it on our own. Or we can do it on our own. But yeah, that we definitely have to learn how to receive help, how to receive, advice and stuff like that. And always because
So how do we do that?
stubborn. Yeah, I feel like we're all kind of stubborn.
Because a
How do
couple
we do
things to
that?
that too, as a child, to go back to the child thing, I remember being told when you go into somebody's house, you don't ask for anything.
Mm.
So I'm wondering if it goes to that as well. Like when you go in here, you don't ask for nothing. Like,
Yeah.
so I wonder if that's that piece of not asking. And then also it kind of makes you feel vulnerable. And you also,
Yes.
like as an adult and working in business, like if you ask someone for help, oh, are they going to think that I can't do this? Are they going to think that like in me asking for help,
Yep.
I'm not able to carry through what I'm trying to accomplish? And it shouldn't be that. We should feel like, listen, I'm great. I got all these things I'm trying to do. I know I can do this. There's nothing wrong with saying, hey, I need help. Or thank you for coming and just offering your help.
Yeah. I think it's a powerful conversation, and I just wanted to leave the listeners with these 5 laws of stratospheric success as just a guideline. You don't have to follow this 100%, but I wanted to increase the perspective of how you can both find more value in your life and share more value into the world. And I think this was a really cool way to talk about it. We're so excited that you were here with us today, Justin. We can't wait to have you back for our music episode and maybe with Josh, because we're crazy together.
Oh.
Yeah.
No,
and can you drop your podcast again, where people can follow you, all that good stuff, all that jazz?
Well, thank you guys for having me to start off. This was really fun. But so yeah, you guys can follow all of the Pass the Vibes stuff. So YouTube, it's just search Pass the Vibes or Pass the Vibes Presents. The podcast is the Pass the Vibes podcast. You can find that pretty much anywhere you get your podcast. Apple Podcast, Spotify, Google, YouTube, Anchor, all that, Spotify. Follow the Instagram, I got a Facebook, got a Twitter. I'm all over the place. You can just for Instagram, it's Pass the Vibes _presents. Twitter, it is PTV_presents. And then on Facebook, the Facebook page is Pass the Vibes Presents. So yeah, you can find me. It's social media. Well, yeah, pretty much everywhere on social media. I'm posting daily stuff like updates on when the podcast is coming out, new YouTube videos, and then yeah, there's a lot of new stuff coming soon. I'm actually recording something today. It's a 3-point contest that I'm probably gonna lose.
So excited to see that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you guys make sure you check him out. We are so excited to continue this relationships. Thanks for listening to us. We're gonna let our engineer get into the next episode. So make sure you keep tuning in so you can listen to USA Radio. Tune in to us on on Wednesday at 2, on Saturdays at 10 a.m. And we will be back with a new fresh episode in 1 week. So tune in. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Olivia.
Olivia, just real quick, I just want to let you